Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. Senator, thanks for coming in.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right. So what Ryan was just talking about, the conclusion of the IG report. The president today said that it was ridiculous and that the IG blew it on the overall conclusion. Did the IG blow it in your mind?
Well, you can ask me that after we talk to him Monday. I'm going to give him a chance to tell us why he believes that. He'll get challenged, and I'll let you know Monday after the hearing.
But from what you've seen in the report, the evidence that they laid out, bad actors, people did bad things, Comey messed up, Peter Strzok definitely messed up, but that they didn't see bias in the overall conclusion.
Well, I'm going to ask him why he concluded that and see what he has to say.
Do you still live open the possibility that you don't agree with the IG's report?
I think he'll be challenged about his conclusion. I think he's a good guy, and we'll see what happens Monday. I'll tell you better after I hear him explain why he got to where he did.
So the president was the president jumping the gun and concluding it then?
I think the president looked at this report and said, what more do you need to show bias? And I'm in a different lane here. I'm in a different business. My job is to provide oversight of the Department of Justice. I respect Mr. Horowitz. Let him explain to us why he reached that conclusion, and we'll see what happens.
The jump the president made, he played the sound of that it exonerates him, that it shows no conclusion and no obstruction. You say?
Well, here's what I think most people will take from this, particularly the Republicans, to be honest with you, that the institutions investigating President Trump took a real blow here. Now, there's nothing in this report about whether or not he colluded with the Russians. He's denied that he has. Haven't seen any evidence of collusion. But that
there's nothing in the report that even gets that.
That's right. That's not what the report's about. But the people that were showing bias against the president also were part of the initial Russian investigation. But you'll be kidding yourself if you think this doesn't do a lot of damage to the institutions that are now looking at the president. This gives a face to many of what the deep state looks like.
But what this report seems to conclude is there's not a deep state, that the overall conclusion was not motivated by bias.
I've been saying there's not a deep state. Then I look at this and I see the people who are conducting an investigation of one political candidate versus the other seem to have a very, not just a political opinion, but a motivation. So that's why we're going to have the hearing.
But the president was wrong, though, in saying that this exonerates him with regard to Russia.
Yeah, I mean, this report, and I'm trying to tell you something that I think is important. This is not the Mueller investigation. Right. They didn't look at whether or not Trump colluded. But what did they find? They found that the people who started the Russian investigation were completely in the tank for Clinton. Hated Trump.
Not all of them who started the Russian
investigation. No, not all. I mean,
we're
most
not talking about Bob Mueller.
I'm sure there are a lot of FBI agents who don't share this, but Strzok was in the investigation early on of Russia. Here's the point you got to get. Just back up.
Okay.
The institutions have been crippled.
Crippled?
Absolutely. If you don't believe that the average American is going to think that the FBI is far more political than they ever believed, that's crazy.
So is Christopher Wray all wrong when he says that yesterday that the institution is strong?
I think the institution's got a lot of problems. Look at all the interactions between people in Washington at the FBI and reporters, and you know, the best way to investigate Washington is not do it from Washington. What have I learned? The FBI's footprint in Washington needs to be reduced. There's too much of a Potomac fever attitude. I'm shocked. I didn't buy into this stuff, that, you know, all these people are out to get Trump. There's enough evidence now to prove to me that the FBI needs to be looked at really closely.
What does that mean? That means you're on judiciary. This is a big threat coming from you. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, it's not a threat, it's a promise. It's a promise we're never going to do. You know, J. Edgar Hoover's spirit is alive and well in some corners of the FBI. Remember this organization during the 40s, 50s, and 60s?
You like Christopher Wray.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I voted for him.
You don't think he can clean things up?
I think if the FBI director is telling the country everything is fine here, you should have confidence in the FBI, he's going to have a tough sell.
I got to talk to you about immigration. The compromise bill has been drafted.
Yes.
Pathway to citizenship for DACA, boosts border security, addresses the separation of families at the border, and also makes big changes to legal immigration. Do you support this in concept?
Yeah, I've voted for every form of immigration known to mankind.
So then, Senator, the president this morning, he blames Democrats for the fact that they haven't been able to reach a deal. He blames Democrats for the fact that families are being separated at the border, for for our
Right.
viewers, I'm going to play what he said. Listen.
The Democrats, by the way, are very weak on immigration. Now, if you notice, when I came over, they were all saying about separating the families, and that's a Democrat bill. That's Democrats wanting to do that, and they could solve it very easily by getting together, but they think it's a good election point. I think it's a horrible election point for them.
He says the Democrats are to blame for not having a deal, but then he also said that he will not sign this deal. So who's holding this up?
Well, I think the Democrats had 60 votes in the Senate, a big majority in the House in the first year of President Obama's term, and did nothing about immigration.
But talk about now. Talk about now. Now
Yeah.
there is a real
There's plenty of blame
issue.
to go around, is what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah, President Trump could stop this policy with a phone call.
He doesn't seem to acknowledge that.
Well, he can't. I'll go tell him. If you don't like families being separated, you can tell DHS stop doing it. But here's the
So
problem.
then what is it? But wait, then what does that say? Because they keep saying it's the law, it's the law, it's
I
the
think
law,
what he's
it's the
saying
law.
is he doesn't think Democrats are working in good faith with him. That's
So
what
is
he's
this
saying.
another one of those never let a good crisis, never let a
I
good
think
crisis
both
go?
parties are looking at it that way a bit, and I'm trying to solve a problem. But the jails are full of people, parents. So if you got a problem with putting somebody in jail who's a parent, the jails are full.
But it's different.
No,
But
it's a crime to bring.
but it-
It's crime to come here legally.
Oh, absolutely. But
Okay.
when you're talking about if it's a single parent home and someone goes to jail, those children are taken care of. Those children
By
are put
who?
into they're put into foster care. They're put in with the families. We're talking about American, like if you're talking about just a regular Joe
where are
Schmo
these
in
kids?
Goshen, Indiana.
Where
I
are
come
these
from,
kids taken to?
They're taken to an
They're in
abandoned
the
Walmart.
No, they're in the custody of the United States. They're not being tortured. They're not being mistreated.
You think that? But you think that you don't think this is okay? What's happening?
No, I think this is a terrible situation I'd like to fix. But let's don't talk about parents being separated from their children because they commit crimes. That happens every day. What I'd like to do is have a rational legal immigration system so people don't come here illegally. They feel like they can come here and go back to where they live.
But again, the president says he thinks it's horrible. He says he thinks it's
Yeah,
horrible
it
that
is
parents and children are being separated.
Always
at the
it's
border.
horrible. It's horrible when somebody goes to jail
Absolutely.
with children.
But is this unnecessary? What's happening right
Here's
now?
what I think. I think if you don't tell people you're going to be serious about enforcing your laws, you'll get more of it. You know what would be necessary is to fix it. I'm disappointed that the president said that he wouldn't support the House bill. I'm very disappointed that we couldn't
I get it, but
get
you
it
can't.
fixed.
He's playing politics, right? I know everybody's playing politics, but the president could fix this with a phone call. You said.
Yeah, but that just incentivizes more illegal immigration.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that people are going to be less likely to bring their kids to America if they get separated than if they live together and get released into the country. Yeah, I'm real sure about that, but here's what I'm really sure about. Our system is broken, and Democrats and Republicans ought to fix it, including the
Can't for
president.
Once you fix the crisis right now, this
You're gonna
one
create a
issue.
new crisis.
No, fix this crisis right now, and also continue the discussion about something you've been fighting for. I mean, I don't even know. When you and I
10 years.
Yeah, for 10 years now. It's not going to be fixed in 2 weeks. We're heading into a midterm if we're talking like raw
Here's
politics
what I would tell
here.
Democrats. Let's take this crisis and see if we can find something good for border security and good for DACA and stop separating families, but also stop incentivizing people to bring their kids. Let's see if we can do that. Maybe something good will come from this.
Can you trust?
Maybe.
Can you trust the words coming out of Donald Trump's mouth? I ask this because he mischaracterizes what comes out of the IG report. It exonerates me from Russia. He mischaracterizes what's happening at the border, separating families. Can you trust the words that come out of his mouth?
I think here's what I think. I trust him as much as Obama. Obama told me stuff I didn't believe.
That is a low bar for you.
Yeah, it's pretty low, isn't it? So here's what I would say about the president and the words coming out of his mouth. Look and see what he does. He thinks he's turned a corner with North Korea. We'll see. Time will tell. He thinks he has. I hope he has.
All right, stick around because that's our next
Okay,
topic.
good.
He has solved the problem. Do you believe that at all?
I believe we're better off today than we were 2 years ago.
Right, but solve the problem is
No,
much further
well,
than we have
when all
made
the nuclear
progress.
weapons are gone, when the missiles are dismantled, when the regime stops threatening the world and killing its own people, we've solved the problem. We're not there yet. I hope we can be. No, the problem's not solved until they give up their weapons.
But again, when do words matter? That's what I ask, because words will matter a lot to Kim Jong-un.
So
The words matter that were on the communique for Kim Jong-un. When do words matter here?
Here's where we're at. This is going to end really well or really badly. The status quo is over. Can you imagine what would happen if Kim Jong-un went to his old way of doing business? Trump would have to attack. He's put himself in a box. Both of them have. The worst thing Kim Jong-un could do is tell Trump to his face, I'm going to give up my nuclear weapons, and play him. Because if you do that, you're going to get fire and fury.
At the same time, you have Trump saying that Kim Jong-un loves his people. And when asked about the fact that Kim Jong-un, about being a killer, he says that Kim Jong-un has to be tough. He got the job when he was young. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm not too far off. But I want to play for you also how he addressed it, how he addressed this question today. Watch this.
Spoken so passionately about the circumstances that led to Otto Warmbier's death.
Yeah.
In the same breath, you're defending now Kim Jong-un's human rights records. How can you do that?
You know why? Because I don't want to see a nuclear weapon destroy you and your family.
Well, and by the way, you've
I
declared the
don't want to
nuclear
see,
threat from North Korea
because
is over.
I don't want to see a nuclear weapon destroy you and your family.
Is that okay?
I think that's the most honest answer you could give. Remember World War II? Remember Joseph Stalin? We sent him tanks and planes, and he was our key ally in defeating Hitler. The Soviets bled the Germans dry. I don't think Churchill and Roosevelt went to Uncle Joe every day and say, hey, why don't you stop what you're doing?
And I think people would give the president leeway and not like beating the drum of human rights abuses every time he talks to him in order to keep him
Fair
at the
enough.
table. But going as far as to justify Kim murdering his people, how can you stand with that?
I don't take it that way. I think what the president's trying to tell this lady, I've got a chance here to do something really good, and he's going to use his own judgment, his own negotiating skills. If he believes buttering the guy up will get rid of his nuclear weapons, butter him up.
Can I play for you what Trump also said about sanctions? Because this is a huge deal.
Okay.
Listen, watch this.
At what point do the sanctions come off of North Korea?
When we can be sure there will be no more nuclear.
How close are we to that?
Very close. We're very close to getting it started.
Are you clear at all then where the line is, where the bar is, what the standard is then for removing sanctions?
I've talked to Pompeo, and I've got a pretty good idea of what we're talking about. We're not going to take maximum pressure off, but here's what I worry about the most. The Chinese are beginning to double deal. For the last 90 to 120 days, the Chinese and the Russians are undercutting the maximum pressure campaign. So some advice to the president. Do what you need to do to end this well so we don't have a war. Make the world safer. Protect the homeland from a missile coming with a nuclear weapon. Try to make North Korea a better place. But China and Russia are beginning to undercut you. You need to read them the riot act.
Let me, on Russia, really quickly, I don't even have time to play it, but he was asked about, on Vladimir Putin in Crimea, the president today blamed President Obama for the annexation of Crimea, and he said it very forcefully, because he said it's because Russia had lost, Obama didn't have Russia's respect, and so Obama's to blame for the annexation of Crimea. Clearly that's not accurate.
That's not accurate.
That is not true.
That's not true.
If that's where his head is, though, do you have any hope of convincing him that Putin's a bad guy?
What he's trying to do is, you're holding me responsible for everything that happened in the world. The reason the world's so screwed up is Obama was weak and I'm strong.
When you're president, what happens is on your shoulders.
Yeah, but what I would suggest to the president that Putin took Crimea in spite of the world's opposition, not just Obama. What are you going to do about Putin in Syria?
On all of this, again, I ask.
What are you going to do about Iran in Syria?
But again, I ask, when can you trust the words coming out of his mouth? Because he says this, but at the same time, his administration has been putting sanctions on Russia for the annexation of Crimea. I don't understand. Words no longer matter.
Well, all I can tell you is that from the president's point of view, he's got a style that's unique to him. What I'm looking at is results. Are we able to push Russia and Iran out of Syria to give Syria back to the Syrian people, not become a puppet of Iran and a proxy of Russia? That's a big test for this president. Can we find a way to have a breakthrough in terms of Russians' misbehavior? What are you going to do about their interference in the 2018 election?
Well, I mean, you went from, I'm going to sum it up, hating him, making fun of him, finding peace with trying to work with him where you can work with him.
Yeah.
Then he comes out and hits you again on whatever he decided to on a given day. Do you trust him now?
Yeah, I trust the
Or
president.
is it a like trust but verify with him as well?
So it's not about trusting the president. Yeah, I like the president. I trust him in terms of trying to do things that that are big and matter. Here's what I've got. I've got a relationship with the president at a time when I think he needs allies. I'll tell him what.
But if people say this is like two-faced, where is the Lindsey Graham of standing up to Donald Trump? What do you say?
Well, I'll tell him when I think he's wrong, but let me just tell you about the critics. When I worked with President Obama, and I did on occasion, I was a hero. Now, when I work with President Trump, I'm two-faced. I know how the game's played, and I don't give a damn. I'm going to do what's best for the country. I like the president. I want to help him. I hope he's successful. He's been a friend to me, and he says some things I don't agree with. So if you don't like me working with President Trump to make the world a better place, I don't give a shit.
And there you have it, Senator Lindsey Graham, in only the way Senator Lindsey Graham can always have the last word in an interview with me. Thank you, Senator.